Thanks for stopping by Big Top Gaming. My name's Brian.
And I'm Ethan.
And we're here to bring you a special battle report. So early on in our involvement in Warmachine battle reports, I had someone reach out to me who had some lists that they and their partner had played. And first they were like, "Can you just get Barnabas and maybe Abby 1 or 2 on the channel?" And it was maybe Rask too. But I said, well, let's just take the list that you both play and we'll just throw them down and see what happens. So that's what you're getting here. I know this is Abby's second time on the channel, but it's a very different list from what was played last time. So I think you'll enjoy it and it'll at least be a fun exercise for us. So for the Abby 2 list, I was presented with Primal Terrors, and that's definitely interesting for me. She can do a lot of cool stuff in this theme, because she can just do cool stuff in general, but she didn't really help out the Chosen or the other Primal Terror pieces. But we still get Golab and free Hellmouth, so that opens up a lot of building space. And then there's that full unit of Blighted Rotwings, which is a nice jam for her that I really think I appreciate a lot more than I thought I would.
And then for me, I got Barnabas, Lord of Blood, in Blindwater with a Spell Slave, double Boneswarm, Wrastler, a Swamp Horror, Bull Snapper. I got Crawtooth, a River Raider, 2 Max Posse, Bokor and Shamblers, and then 2 Crockpots for filling the Swarms, Barnabas, and then once they're full for loading out the Bokor every turn and just pooping out more dudes.
So I ended up winning the roll to go first. I think I cracked a 3 and you rolled a 1 a couple times. Or just a 1 in general. But I've kind of deployed where the Chosen are more towards the bottom, and you'll have to forgive the angle. I kind of changed it to experiment a little bit, but I think it brings more things out of focus than gives you a better idea of what's on the table. So we might experiment with that a little bit further. We also forgot to start the clock, so I might have had a couple minutes here where I wasn't on the clock doing stuff. Maybe not minutes, but it was some time. Any rate, there's a unit of Hellmouth at the a Hellmouth unit at the top of the screen, and then one at the bottom of the screen. And those ones are just in the zone, so they can always contest it, because Barnabas doesn't really have like a whole lot of reach out and touch you power. So I think as long as I can keep the jam up there and keep layering bodies, it's going to be hard for Ethan to contest those zones, or not contest them, but to clear them, because there will be a lot in your way.
Yeah, it's hard to read. I don't have any ranged attacks, I think. And my magic attacks aren't going to reach the Hellmouth, and I don't have things to scalp them out. So clearing those zones is going to be hard for me.
Yeah, it's a toughie. So next up, the Seraph is going to do its thing. It couldn't really get a good charge on anything, so we ended up charging off into the corner towards some of those Gatorman Posse, and that let us slipstream the Carnivean up. And then Absylonia walks up too, and this is where we kind of have some slipstream problems, because I'm recounting how to play a Horde's army. So since Abby doesn't have the Seraph in her control anymore, it means that I can't slipstream out. And so that means that Golab's just going to be a little bit behind, but it's okay because he's a pretty quick beast anyhow. It just means I need to get better at doing the Hordes thing. I think I was going to hang my hat on Signar for a while, but with that Legion CID looking pretty spicy, I might pull these purple winged boys back out of the closet.
Yeah, the Legion Sid's shaping up really nice.
Yeah, I love the Archangel and Bethane 1 so much. I'm more excited about her than I am Bethane 2.
Bethane 1, if her feat wasn't warrior models only, because it's warrior only, so it doesn't affect thrones.
I think I'm just jazzed about having Disintegrate and a ranged gun boost on the caster, and I don't care about the feat. I've just been programmed to not care about her feat.
No, that's fair. An Archangel, if that Sid rule stick, is arguably best Gargantuan in the game now.
Yeah, I'd definitely say it's way up there.
Because it's the highest base POW, because most Gargs are 18, 19, and that thing's POW 21 now.
Yeah.
And it has POW 16 shooting before buffs.
Lots of ways to buff it, and lots of ways to make sure that it's Fury efficient in Legion, so it'll be a contender for sure. Just to round out the turn here, I've got some Rotwings that are flying up the side of the table. Really, this unit's going to jam when it needs to, but it's also got pretty vicious attacks with those POW 9 finisher rolls. So as long as I'm not killing, if I'm not killing the Gatormen, these guys should be able to do quite a bit of work to them.
So losing the roll was unfortunate because you project so much threat up the board. I would like to claim some space because I think we start here. I start measuring. I'm like, if Barnabas charges forward with feet and Alpha Hunter, your Golab threatens 16 inches.
Yep, 16.
So it's like I can't even charge if I go that way. Which my original plan was to go right and maybe get Barnabas on the flag eventually. Pot goes up, rolls 3.
Yeah, you hit the mother load there.
Yep, instantly gives it to the pot. So I got a Posse in the top, Posse in the bottom. Golab is up on top, so I put Crawtooth, which is proxied by Maylock, so we couldn't get one in time.
Yeah, I just couldn't get out to Baraboo.
So he's down there with the unit that's not going to get screwed over on tough by Golab, so that way maybe I can use some sleeping on the job. It's only range 6, since he's command 6, so I feel like he has to babysit a unit. He can't really spread it too far over the army. So I got Posse moving up on top, they're just dirging and running, trying to keep behind the wall just to be in that zone and maybe threaten next turn with Onslaught. Next pot goes up, gets 2, gives it to the other Boneswarm. So I'm sitting pretty good on corpses right now. When the crock pots roll a 1, turn 1, then it's like it gets kind of iffy.
Yeah, you need to start rolling that momentum with them early.
Yep, because I'm used to playing them in Tharn, so they start with a corpse, and everything they want to give one to starts with a corpse, so I'd never have to worry about it. So this was a blast from the past. Boneswarm goes up. He puts up Swarm and charges just in case he gets something cute and some threat ranges I don't anticipate. Just so in case a Slipstream Heavy gets that far forward, or he Slipstreams a Chosen and gets the charge range, something shenanigan-y like that. Barnabas goes. He's going to put up Execration. He's going to swarm himself and put up Onslaught. And that's where we're measuring, if I've aligned the Golab. Because originally I was thinking charge him and then try and push that top zone up. But then I think we start thinking about threat ranges. And I'm like, I can't go that way.
This was where I think at the beginning we thought that Golab was only going to get 13. But then we had to factor in the Alpha Hunter gives 2, and then I had forgotten that the feet gives reach, so there was an extra inch on top of that. So I think you were really in danger no matter where you put him, but putting him where Golab could easily get him was definitely not the way you wanted to go, because he's throwing POW 16 Weapon Master shots at you then, and that's not good for any caster.
And I figured losing bottom of 1 wouldn't be fun.
Yeah.
Or top of 2. So those Posse are running up. I got 1 in the zone, and I tried to keep the rest outside 12 of the Chosen. I might have messed up 1 and got it within 12.
Yeah, it's rough eyeballing things.
Yep. And then there, I forgot to move the Swarms with Barney, because between the 4 factions I play, he's the only Warcaster unit. I played Gas before, but he's not my Warcaster, so I don't really worry about it as much.
Yeah, he's a fake Warcaster.
He's a better Warcaster, and we'll talk about that later. So I just run up the Boneswarms, and I'm trying to keep them outside of the Spell Slave running and Hex Bolting or Hex Blast.
Yep, Hex Blast. Or no, Hex Bolt, because it's the one that it's only range 6 and it pops you. You can't do special things or power attacks.
Because I have to play cagey with my Shamblers and with my Bone Swarms. Or not the Bone Swarms, but the Bony Boys.
The Shamblers, yeah. Oh, you mean the Bone Shakers.
Yeah, because that's just an easy auto Alpha Hunter target, and I can't afford that.
Yep, that's kind of the weird thing you've got to deal with this list is all the different ways that it can threat you, because you have to respect my innate threat, and then on top of that, the Hex Blast threat.
Yep, I have to respect Hellmouth pulls, Chosen charges. I have to respect Hex Bolts.
Hex Bolt, yeah.
I have to respect your feet threats, this is why I would have much rather gone first, but that's how the die rolls.
Alrighty, so Tapa 2 puts me in an interesting position. Like, I've played quite a bit of Abby 2 in my time. Not so much lately, but enough, right? And when I've played her, it's always been with a really wide battle group, and there's usually some really interesting pieces in there that can extend your threat a little bit. But having Chosen in here kind of makes it unique and interesting for me because usually my... sorry for stepping in front of the camera here. There's a little bit more space, so it's just like a place I exist in now. At any rate, the Primal Terrors list that I'm used to are always throwing out buffs to the Ogrun so that you can kind of use a bunch of... you can just layer these effects on them to get a lot of effectiveness out of it, but I've never really had this super dangerous battle group kind of backing it up. So now I'm mostly looking at playing turn 2 as more of a take what I can and then jam with the rest. So on the top part here, I can get one Hellmouth Tentacle into a Posse, and I know that Execration of Blackest Night is not the greatest spell for me in the universe, but I want to try and fight through it a little bit. So I decide to get the one charge off, and I'm still in Execration, so I need 9s to hit this thing, and I, of course, miss because I'm just not that lucky. So next up, I think there's one Chosen that can wing a charge across the other path to get to this Posse that's in back. And I'm pretty sure I measured that right. After looking at it on the side, it looks like I might have got a little generous with the charge.
I think you're going for the one in the zone.
Yeah, the one on the zone, yeah.
Because that's the one in threat.
Yep. Okay, yeah, never mind. Then we're good. I guess I just wasn't paying attention to how I was moving. So we get one Chosen to charge off into the Posse that's hanging out in the zone, and we hit it under Execration because Mat 7 with the cavalry charge is pretty easy to do. And once I wipe that one off after failing its tough check, I just reposition forward a little bit. In hindsight, I probably could have moved him a little bit closer to that house to kind of block off the zone a little bit more. But I think he's in a fine place for right now, especially since I got the top of the turn, or the top of the round, so it's not like scoring is going to happen at the end of this right away. Next up, I'm just trying to figure out, like, how am I going to be utilizing the rest of my battle group, because I don't have to unpack them early like I usually do with Abby 2. So I just decide to move the Seraph up to get into a more defensive position to try and utilize its gun a bit more over the next turns, because flare is going to be really important to me. And we slipstream the Carnivean up. I'm going to end up using this forest as kind of like a protective shelter for me, because Ethan doesn't have any pieces in his army that can really mitigate the forest. You don't have Pathfinder because your objective is Puppet Master.
No, I took Pathfinder. You took Puppet Master.
Sorry, I took Puppet Master.
I have Onslaught, but I can't charge through the woods if I can't see.
Yeah.
And the Boneswarms have Pathfinder, but they're only speed 5 with 1-inch melee, and they can't afford they can't trample because they're medium bases.
So my logic's sound, at least, that I feel like the forest is really going to protect a lot of my pieces, and with Slipstream I have the ability to kind of yank them out from the forest to get some good charges, especially since I've got flying all over the place, and then the Carnivean has natural Pathfinder, so it works out pretty well for them. And the rest of even the Blights, the Rotwings, can fly around over that rubble that's in the middle of the table, which I'm unpacking now. And I think if you wanted to play a fun drinking game, you could take a drink every time a bird falls over, but I think you would risk killing yourself from alcohol poisoning.
Those birds are just so top heavy.
Well, and I put I always like mine on a little bit more or less impactful flight stands. So the Privateer Press ones are cool, but they look like the big plastic Nike swoosh, and I just don't like them. So I've got very thin rods sticking out for these guys, but that rod doesn't offer any weight like the Privateer Press ones do. So they're definitely... I tried to balance them out as best as I could. You can kind of see sometimes when I move one, it just goes boing, because it's the bird's real heavy. So... at any rate, they're going to be toppling over a lot. I think we end up getting 2 charges or 3 charges over here.
Yeah.
There's 2 birds on the top on that Gatorman, and then 1 on the bottom as well. The 2 on the top are not swinging over the wall, so they've at least got that going for them, and they're not in Execration, so they only need 7s to connect. The 1 on the bottom, I believe, is over the wall. So we're doing the top side now. The first one misses, which is unfortunate. The second one, I think, misses as well, and the third one connects and ends up doing a truckload of damage.
Yeah, he did 7 damage at dice -9.
Yep, so I guess that was the second one. I guess the first one I did was the bottom and then went up. Yeah. So there's one Gatorman hanging out with one box over there, which is nice for the future turns, but I would have liked to have spread that damage out a little bit more. But not having Golab to give them that veteran leader kind of hurted them. Jesus, am I like a 5-year-old?
And they couldn't get base to base for the neg 1 def.
Yeah, so it was just a weird situation for them. But they're doing their job in keeping Gatorman out of my zone, because I'm really going to try and leverage some scenario pressure, because this list kind of comes at you from a couple different angles, right? You've got the Chosen are very attritional, along with the Warmongers. And the Warmongers can do a lot of work with Berserk and Powerful Charge and just being able to hit well on their own anyways. And then you've got this ridiculous threat range coming from Absylonia's battle group, and they hit really hard too. I think the Carnivean's going to be getting up to like POW 20s. Golab gets up to POW 16 Weapon Master. Like, Mullet Karn's jealous of Golab, I think, in most cases. And then on top of that, you have if I get the scenario pressure going because I'm jamming so hard with Hellmouths, Ethan's kind of getting attacked from 3 different fronts, so eventually something's going to falter somewhere, and no matter what, I should be able to capitalize on it.
And I can't risk... Normally, Barnabas wants to play up in the front lines, but with Abby 2's threat, like, if Abby 2 gets to me with Siphon Energy, like,
yeah,
I have to risk camping nothing just so you can't Siphon Energy, get free boosts.
Yeah, because I think I hit you on average with all of your buffs out there.
You need 10s.
Yeah, that's harsh.
So now I'm getting kind of jammed out on scenario, and I still, like, his battle group is still slowly coming up the board. So, like, Barney is in a precarious place, and I got to try and figure out what he wants to do while staying safe. And I want to try and clear off that top, my flag. There's 2 Hellmouth tentacles and 2 birds in the way. So, and, like, I don't have that volume of attacks over there, especially, like, ones that can kill the Hellmouth tentacles trivially, just because Impervious Flesh is kind of rough.
Yeah, it's just enough without charges that it's really difficult for Gators to deal with.
Well, like, and the Gators are jumped up with the birds, so I know they have to kill birds this turn. Originally, my plan is the Spell Slave is going to try and Mental Force a Blood Rain, but, like, I had to look it up. It's an AoE 3, POW 12, but it's just POW 6 blast damage, so I'm thinking of just running a Shambler or one of... Originally, I wanted to run one of Barney's Shamblers up there.
It's a Bone Shaker.
Bone Shaker. But if he runs, then Barney has to run. That's the Barney dilemma, where it's like, I need him to cast spells, but I need his Dark Shroud bots to get up in ranges. But if they do that, then I can't cast spells, and I have to charge. And if I'm charging, it's like, it just gets funky.
It's almost like all those benefits that you talked about being a Warcaster unit are not actually all that great to weigh out the problems of being a Warcaster unit.
They are when your Warcaster unit's actually really good, but we'll save that for the end, because we'll talk a little bit about Barney too and my thoughts on him. So this turn is a lot of planning for me, because I know if I don't get this right, there's going to be a big scenario push. So I Puppet Master the Spell Slave just in case he misses, because he's only magic ability 4. So, and the blast damage is POW 6. So I need to make sure this is going to hit and do damage, because originally I was thinking maybe I could do that to the Hellmouth, but I think I end up checking the blast radius, and then, like, they're 2 spaced apart for AoE 3s.
Yeah, and at POW 6, that's really difficult to start whacking off Hellmouth tentacles.
Yep, on 2 dice, at dice minus 10, are their armor 15?
They're 15, yeah.
So off 9, I need a 2 dice 10 thanks to Mental Force. And there I'm still measuring Golab's threat. So I decided to put up a Wrastler to try and maybe bait out Golab, because Rage isn't as huge for this list.
Especially against Legion. Like, our beasts are kind of glassy, so it's not like Rage is super needed.
Because Barney is basically a heavy on his own, so if I can just go up and, like, trade a heavy, you take my heavy, Barney comes up, kills your heavy, like, it's kind of an even trade in my mind.
Yeah, just as long as Barnabas doesn't go, then it's a very uneven trade.
Yep. And then there I'm measuring if a Boneswarm can walk up around the building and punch a tentacle. because I'm starting to think I'm going to make Fort Barney over there by putting up Swarm with this Boneswarm. He fails the kill with a 1, buys an attack, kills it, gets his corpse. Now he's up to 3 corpses, puts up Swarm.
You'll throw it back to Funky.
So I'm sitting there.
Right plate.
I'm feeling kind of okay with him there because like Def 13 base, Swarm puts him with the Def 15 against living, and then I'm going to have Execration up. So he's Def 17 against anything that goes in the melee with him.
Yeah, he's really hard to hit. I think at that point it becomes like my guys are needing like 9s to hit you or even worse, and that's not really where I want to be.
And then there, Barney was measuring to see if he had line of sight to a bird, just to hard cast his own Execration, or not Execration,
A Blood
Rain. So I end up, I believe I'm going to be Blood Raining a Tentacle, because that's really the only thing I got that can reach out and touch him. So I do it. I have to boost because it's a POW 12 because I can't afford to roll 1 dice.
So that's like a 4 Fury investment.
Yep. So I upkept Onslaught because my spell slave was over there because I wanted to threaten Hunter's Mark. So I had to pay 1. I had to spend 4 on Blood Rain just to kill a tentacle. And now I'm putting up Execration. And this is the part where I'm thinking, like, how do I keep Barney from getting killed? Because I was like, I don't want to feat defensively with Barney, because that strips a lot of his threats off the board.
Yeah, as someone who plays Butcher 3 a bunch, like feeding defensively is never where you want to be with a caster like that.
No. So I tried to take a proxy base, and then we end up dropping it in the middle of birds, so we accept it's gone forever. Because he's trying to walk around a swamp whore that you can't see. You can see it in the transitions, but so he ends up walking around, and he's going to be base to base with that building, out of Golab's threat, and then next to a Bone Swarm with Swarm up. So, like, even though he's camping 0, I'm feeling okay because I'm out of Abby's personal threat, and the Carnivean, even with Slipstream, can't really get into the woods far enough to see me. So, Swamp Horror, I believe, is going to be going here. I'm proxying out. So thanks to Onslaught, he can charge into the woods, so I'm just getting 3 inches to the Shredder that ran up, and then getting range on the Ogrun. I charge, do decent damage.
This is into the Shredder, right? Yeah.
No, I had to charge the Ogrun.
Oh, the Ogrun. Yeah, my bait Ogrun.
Yep. So I procced Vengeance, and like I had to take it. In my mind, maybe I could have saved it, but I needed to limit the amount of attacks he was going to get in.
You see, Vengeance for me with this list, especially with that forest right there, is more positional than it is attacks. So I think like it was not super great for you to proc Vengeance on that unit because there's a lot that can't see out that forest. But I think you just had to start taking something somewhere.
Yep, because if I didn't, he could just no quarter run anyway.
Yeah.
And jam me up even more. So I needed to start killing dudes. And I was trying to put up that Swamp Horror as bait. Because like with Impervious Flesh, Execration only puts him up to Def 12. But like it's possible you miss. And then there's range for Barney just to come up from where he is. And I mostly needed him to be in the way. Because I'm going to be flooding in front of me with dudes.
Yeah, you need to make a landing. You need to deny my landing spaces because I don't have quite enough pieces to really trivially clear out landing zones because I'm not reaching out with a bunch of stuff. Like my Carnivean's really good at it with that spray, but with Execration, he's just not hitting a whole bunch, and he's also one of my big hard-hitting heavies, which this list is kind of a little slim on, so I really wouldn't want to invest him on clearing pieces to get onto Barnabas.
No, because in my mind, he's what kills Barnabas.
Exactly, yeah.
And then here, my Shambler unit, I believe, is going. Yeah, I end up running. I ran a Shambler in between the 2 birds. That 4 inches I put next to the flag, originally I was going to run a Shambler that contest, but Barney is in the way now, so going around him, I physically cannot contest his flag, which is really not good.
Yeah, that lets me exert that scenario pressure that we were talking about earlier,
but
that building's kind of cramping your style a little.
Yeah, it really split me up, but I couldn't afford to take all that rough terrain on the other side, just running and positioning.
Exactly, yeah, because I have the ways to mitigate that, and you don't. So, like, I made the joke that, like, I set up the table side with the comfy chair a little bit more worse for Ethan's list so that I will dissuade him from taking it, and that's not exactly what I was trying to do here. It wasn't even period what I was trying to do, but it makes sense.
The other Bone Swarm goes up, puts up Swarm in front of Barney. Spell Slave walks the flag and mental forces a blood rain into that poor Shambler. I did run the Bokor, so he's in command because you can't target out of command miles with spells, friendlies. I miss, but luckily Puppet Master reroll hits, and then boosted blast damage kills them because
Yeah, the birds just go down.
mental force AoEs and sprays is bananas. Like with a Maylock, my favorite thing is when somebody like runs a bunch of infantry up and I mental force a venom.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've killed 5 Ogruns before with it.
Yeah, it's a really great spell, or a really great ability.
There I'm just measuring onslaught ranges because now I had the run so far away from Golab, I only get 1 of the posse in. So the rest, I
think you were gonna charge and then decided to advance with them instead.
No, I had the charge.
Oh, you had to charge. Or
it's
else,
just
yeah.
none of the other ones could charge deep. They had to charge and run around the wall,
Yeah,
so I
they're
got a
kinda
bunch of
stuck
fake
there.
charges over the walls,
Mhm.
and I prayed for rerolls against living.
Yep, which came up.
Yes. So I kill the tentacle. So I'm okay there. So now I've cleared my flag. So it's he'll score 1, I'll score 1, so it's fine. And then with all the swinging over the walls with rerolls, I end up getting all the birds, I believe, that are in combat
I
with
thought
me.
there was one that stayed there, but we'll find out in like 30 seconds.
Yep. And then as I'm killing birds, I'm getting their corpses. So I'm reloading the pots. Because that's one of the cycle reuses of the theme. Like, as soon as you jam me, I'll start to take the corpses and then I'll start giving them to the Bokor. Just to try and, like, keep the dude train running.
You did get all the birds.
Yep. And it's a lot harder against Abby, of course, because I can't give him those models just to trivially kill for alpha.
Exactly.
So
you've got to do it yourself.
I
or
would
take
like to
mine.
jam with the Shamblers in front of my posse, but, like, I literally can't because then that...
Getting Alpha Hunter is a really big deal. It kind of like shifts the math that your list is really trying to like hone in on.
Yep. Spiny Growth Bot just walks up to be safe.
Mel, you gotta get on Starship. Mel.
And then one posse takes a free strike because I'm going to be trying cute. Because I'm like, if he toughs. And no, he does not. Because with sleeping on the job, he could tough and then keep charging.
Yep.
Because I wanted to try and jam up those chosen because, like, I'm not getting any charges. I get 1 charge and 2 fake charges. Oh, no, that front one charged the tentacle. Barely breaks armor with a 3
Yep. Barely does.
on the charge. And then just doing some swings here. Did rerolls against living again because nothing matters, but the other ones don't matter. So I do 5.
Yep. And I tough and then heal 1 back, so that's important.
Yep, I'm out of range on my bite.
Alright, outer plates, guys.
So
So that one hit only did 1 damage, and then I healed back 2, so I'm sitting at I think 2 all day.
no, this one kills.
Oh, there was the second one.
Yeah, the second one
first
hits.
first one hit and broke armor a little bit. I healed, and then the second attack from that one hit.
Yeah, because I have
killed.
no way around rapid healing. So you took 1, went down the 1, healed 3, went up to 4.
Yep.
And then luckily I spiked because like I got no Grievous besides Barney.
All right, so we're on top of 3 right now, and I've got some interesting choices here because I've scored 1, or Ethan was unable to contest my flag, so I'm up 1, not up 1, I'm at 1 already.
Yep, it's 1-1, and I forgot to do the mental force damage on my dude, so he took 3.
Yep, which was unfortunate. Well, fortunate for me, but unfortunate for you.
Yeah, I was hoping for like 1.
And if you pay attention to what's kind of going on in the scenario or in the zones, there's not a whole lot that's really jamming me to contest because my threat ranges and my and the rest of my like units have really like de-incentivized Ethan from kind of crashing into me.
It's more like I
So-
just couldn't. I was so jammed. I couldn't
Yeah.
even move up the board.
And that forest probably stops from a lot too. So this is where like I decide to go into the tank for a little while here and try and figure out if I slipstream the Carnivean or if I can slipstream him in a certain way, can I see out of the forest to get onto Barnabas? Because then the question is, what can I get with Abby to proc Alpha Hunter to make sure that this goes off without a hitch? I mean, it's still dicey, but the Carnivean's got a lot of attacks, and swinging at POW 20 is pretty good if we connect with him. And I think
'cause your
Barnabas
dice
is camping
+2.
1.
He's camping 0 because he
Zero.
had to do that boosted blood rain.
Yep. So I feel like if I could get it, I'd go for it and just like, live on the edge there. There really is no way for me to get the Carnivean into position there. So I decide that it's just going to be trying to clear the zones as much as I can and go for that attritional play by throwing up a bunch of Ogrun and just letting you chew on them while my battle group is going to be mostly hanging back, ready to unpack when you've sandpapered off the rest of my jam. So the Ogrun or the Warmongers end up getting their vengeance to go off, and they now have a lot better lines than they did before. And then when we factor in like no quarter going off this turn, they're not going to be hindered by that forest anymore, and they're going to be getting into really rough spots for Ethan to have to try and deal with. So they'll be spread out with your very concentrated attacks, and they're also pretty tough in their own right. So it's going to be harder for you to get them to go down with your guys not having a lot of ways to pump up their damage output outside of just their normal capabilities.
Well, I mean, I got my War Beast in the center, so I got Rage. I can maybe get Dark Shroud, but the Dark Shroud bubble is so hard to get because his bots are speed 5 with
yeah,
range melee.
with Barnabas hanging out behind that building, those Warmongers are going to be hard to get to. Not impossible to get to, but hard to get to.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just trying to figure out how to work this the best that I can. Like, what do I need to do here? And I guess I must still just be in maintenance and doing tentacle generation. And I think I have... You'll notice that I don't apparate my Seraph very often, and that's not 100% intentional. It's just like there are certain turns where I don't feel like apparition matters so much, and then later on in the game, not to try and pull the rug out from your opponent, but then you apparate and they're like, oh, I didn't know that was something that you could do. So like I get that maybe that's a little shifty, but like it is definitely something that you can utilize to try and get a leg up on an opponent that didn't think you were in range to get something.
That sounds like a dick move, man.
I know, it's like it's borderline. Most of it is conveniently forgetting that I have apparition until it matters. So like I'm not trying to be skeezy. It just happens.
It just comes naturally.
Yeah, naturally I'm skeezy, sure. So all the Hellmouth tentacles are out. And I think the first thing I'm just trying to figure out like what is the priority here, because I know that clock is something that I have not been super hot with lately, as can be made evident by every 1.5 hour battle report that we've posted for the last 2 weeks. But I need to figure out what needs to happen. And I think the nice thing about playing this Abby list in Primal Terrors is that there are really no buffs that need to go onto the Ogrun, or no like weird synergies that need to stack up in order to get them to do what they need to do. So they can just work independently because they're just good at what they do normally, and it's not a big deal for them.
Yeah, your list functions independently. Like the battle group does its own thing. Your units do their own thing. They're all very self-sufficient.
Exactly. So I can just do what I want wherever I want. So the Seraph is in range to aim and shoot at the Boneswarm and ends up connecting with the first shot and doing a pretty decent amount of damage. With Flare out there now, I feel like I can probably take the shot without having to boost it in hopes that I just land it and then can boost damage. So that's what I decide to do, since I'm, I got a 4-point defense swing on you before any of your buffs because I've aimed and I've flared you.
Yep, and you aimed outside execration range.
Yep, and that was real nice. So we end up connecting and boost damage, and we do a nice amount to that Boneswarm again. I think it's lost its body now.
Yep,
and
it's down to 10 boxes.
Yeah, you can see the grid. Like, that Seraph did some pretty decent work, so I'm pretty happy with it being a little support piece over here, especially since I don't need Slipstream right now. Next up, we're just going to be kind of working the Chosen up, and their real job over here is to jam out those Posse, because I feel like they're one of the things that can most easily and most annoyingly contest that zone. So if I can do things like use one Chosen to get rid of a Boneswarm and then another Chosen to get rid of a Shambler, then these other Chosen to get rid of and jam up the other Gatormen, it means that they're not going to have an easy time getting around all my jams. And my jams are actually doing work too, so they're not just like kind of running up to run up. So I end up getting some impact attacks, so that's why we're kind of throwing dice before we finish moving things here. The impact, I think, starts off on the Boneswarm, And then we don't do anything to the Boneswarm because I miss. But then
No,
I
you
end
did a
up-
couple damage.
Oh, gotcha. But the big one is I hit the Bog Trog Shambler, and that gives me a little bit better of a open space for my other Chosen to get in, and that'll let him get on the Boneswarm as well. So we're feeling pretty happy with trying to get this Boneswarm out of the zone right now, given that we've unpacked 2 different Chosen into him, and then hopefully we should be able to get this last contesting Gatorman out of here with the Chosen that are charging up there. So we do another impact attack. He's not impacting his charge target. He's just impacting who he's close enough to impact for whatever reason. The first charge on the Gatorman that's in my zone on the behind the building there, it ends up hitting but not doing a ton of damage. I think we did 4 damage to it. So now we got to go in with the next one and hope that he works. So he hits, which is half the trouble, and then he just blows up the damage roll, and he does not get to tough.
Nope.
We had some confusion about which Gatorman was getting hit, but figured that out. So now that my zone is free up on that side, and I don't have to worry about it.
Nope.
So now we're going into the Boneswarm, and that one connects and does a ton of damage, enough to just kill it. And then we redirect a charge attack into a Shambler. We end up hitting and taking that out too. So now we've kind of dealt with everything that's kind of in this zone right now. Not kind of, I mean, it just is. The zone's clear. I have it. So now I'm repositioning my Chosen in a way to make sure that nothing can get into the zone, although the Chosen that's behind that building there didn't really quite go where he needed to. But the wall of Chosen is working out pretty well for me up here. Next up, we've got the Warmongers to go, and I think we're able to put 2 Warmongers on the Swamp Horror, and then that lets me take these guys in other directions. So I think that might be now Gorag's going into the Wrastler. The one Chosen's going into a Gatorman, or the Gatorman Soul Slave that took some damage already this turn, and then the next one's just going into some into a Gatorman to try and not clear up that zone, because I don't think that I can clear that zone right now, but at least trying to take some models out of that posse unit to lower their effectiveness as the game goes on. The more of those I take out, the less options Ethan has to deal with my Ogrun, and that means that my battle group gets more time to get into position to make his choices a lot more difficult as the game goes on. So I think the Ogrun end up doing... I think we put them into that was probably Gorag going into the Wrastler first, and he did a decent amount of damage to it. Not a ton, but a decent amount. And now we're into the Swamp Horror, and the Swamp Horror didn't lose any aspects, but it just took maybe 8 damage or something like that. Nothing too extreme.
Nah, Impervious Flesh helps.
But I think now we've got the Gatorman Soul Slave ends up going down to this attack.
Yep.
And now I've got I miss a Berserk trigger, but we end up going back to correct it. With the other Ogrun, he ends up connecting with the Gatorman Posse that's in there, but doesn't roll high enough to do more than 4 damage to it. So now we go back to the Berserk attack, and I go into a Bone Shaker and get that out of there. So now that Dark Shroud target's off the table, and then I go into the Gatorman Wrastler just to do a couple points of damage. So nothing crazy there, but the Ogrun Warmongers have done what they needed to do, and now Ethan's really hurting for solos to try and score his flag, and I think there's now 3 Ogrun that are in range to be contesting that flag, so he's got a lot of beef to chew through in order to make sure that that's an option for him to grab again. But now, since that Gatorman Posse member is damaged that's not behind the wall, I can get a couple birds in there, and they should be able to take that guy off the table, which is pretty nice for a unit that's so inexpensive that just didn't have much to do otherwise. The rest of them end up running up to jam, and that's just kind of their role right now. If they can get meaningful attacks in, they'll go for it, but for the most part, they're really just kind of existing to make things difficult for Ethan to dig any deeper than what he already was able to.
Yep. Gatorman Toughs, but then the second one just auto hits, kills him on 4 dice.
Yeah.
No. Throw the ball. Throw the ball. Oh my God, not to me.
So I think I think I might have one more bird that could have gone in and did something up there on the side, but I'm not 100% sure what I think I might have just missed or something.
Yeah, I
'Cause
think you
was,
missed.
It was the Gatorman that had one box left. I was like, this is a for sure thing, and it just didn't happen. Next up, the Carnivean just kind of gets into a good spot to make sure that he's protected, but can threaten some things on the wide side of the zones. And I want to make sure I stay away from that Swamp Horror, which I think I'm able to do pretty decently because there's 2 big Ogrun there in his way.
And you have Bracer up on him, so I can't pull him.
I do. Like, a reoccurring thing is Spiny Growth, Bracer are always on the Carnivean, and Abby's always got Spiny Growth. She's also been putting Return Fire up on the Carnivean just because it might be not an irrelevant thing. It's just something that could get you if you're not thinking about it.
It's a free attack.
Exactly. You just put it out there and see what happens. Golab moves over, and then we're going to kick it over to Ethan.
So Brian is now up 3-1 on me.
Yeah.
So I'm really on the back foot. His army has now officially jammed City, like worse than last turn.
Yeah, there's not a single model that is not in the line that the zones create.
Yep. Except for your Carnivean.
I have retainer.
No, I mean like from the 18
Oh,
inches
yeah, I
back,
see
there's
what you're
no
saying. I see
model
what
that's
you're
out of
saying.
that.
You can blow
Pretty
up
much
shit.
every other model in your list is in the zone
Yep.
or contesting.
Lollipop.
So I have, I believe, 5 corpses on my Bokor, so I'm just deciding where to put them all. And I'm like, I'm hemming and hawing, so I'm like, if I put them forward, I can jam, but then there's an Alpha Hunter. So I decide just to poop out 5 of them in the back, because I feel like this might be a Barney feet turn. So I just want to keep them back where I need them. Barney's deciding upkeeps. And then I believe I do upkeep Onslaught just in case it comes up in future turns. Because I'd rather upkeep it for 1 than hard cast it for 2.
Yeah. He's a little greedy for his Fury.
Yeah. And with his feet, he can 1-round another heavy or clear some dudes. It's just I really, really wanted to save his feet for a heavy. Because that's...
I'm not ready to give you one of those.
No, because you don't need to.
Yeah, my
the rest of your
army's doing
infantry-
the job.
Yeah. Your battle group can just lay in wait and do what they gotta do.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. Just go up.
Stalking in the forests.
And then there, I decide to spend a corpse to put up a Bone Shaker because he has to spend corpses to bring them back. So I poop one out within 3. That's to engage those 2
That's the first thing.
chosen. So now they're Dark Shrouded at least. And I'm still deciding what to do because I am on the back foot and I really, really need this turn to go well. Otherwise, that it basically seals it.
Yeah, I'm just threatening too much in the zones and have too much efficiency to clear them. And the footprint of your army isn't helping you out much either because it's mostly kind of condensed behind that building. Like, if someone were walking by this, they could barely tell that you even had an army to speak of because it's just all behind this building condensed.
Yep.
And you're kind of getting wrapped by the purple tide over here.
So Wrastler goes up into Gorag,
Yeah.
misses his first attack with his bite. I do not rage myself. Misses his first claw, hits the second claw, does nothing for damage. Buys, misses, buys, misses,
We'll all
buys,
do this
hits,
encounter.
doesn't
then,
kill,
yep,
leaves him on 1, buys attack, misses, buys his 4th attack,
As long as we
and
finish
finally
it.
hits, and finally kills.
Yep,
It took
no tough.
7 attacks from a Wrastler at Mat 6 to kill Gorag. 'Cause I really wanted him to rage the Swamp Horror, and then the Swamp Horror is what was going to clear off all the Ogrun in front of Barney.
Yep.
But now I got no rage, so now I know that Swamp Horror can't do that. So there I'm just measuring if Barney can walk up and engage the 2 chosen, but my own Shambler is in my way. So I can't actually fit, and I can't do the Shamblers first because I need Barney to clear a path so that way they can run and actually contest the flag. So I got some weird order of activation issues I got to figure out, and I got to decide how I'm going to do this. And I really need all the activations I can get to clear his stuff. So I really, really hate the fact I'm going to have to waste an activation killing a Shambler that's in my way. Because that's what I got to do, because I'm measuring reach ranges and 4-inch melee where I have to get to contest the flag by running through the woods. Because those Shamblers that are engaged by the Chosen, they will not survive a free strike.
No.
And then it's just not going to be fun. So I got the pot moving up. He's going to do his Gallows spell into my own Shambler instead of Puppet Mastering Barney like I had planned. Boost the hit, hits, auto kills. So boom, I've just spent 5 points to kill a 0 point model.
It's
effectively.
technically 0 because it's a requisition.
I've spent a 0 point model to kill an effectively 0 point model.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
0.25 after I brought it back.
I get it. It's not what you want to be doing.
Nope. There, I'm measuring Spiny Growth Bot with Manhunter, making sure, or Maneater, seeing if he could charge around my other pot up there just to get that charge on the Ogrun that's basing the flag. And he can. He charges for free thanks to Bloodthirst and Maneater. And then I boost a hit because Mat 6 apparently sucks. And luckily I boost because I think I would have rolled that 4 and that 1. I hit. Tough check. He fails it. And now I'm deciding, do I Spiny Growth or do I Torpid? And I end up Torpiding because I know my beasts are going to run super hot this turn.
Yeah, that Wrastler's already full.
Yep, he already bought 4 attacks to kill 1 model. So, and I know that Swampor is going to be full. There, Crawtooth just moves over to try and take an attack. He couldn't charge around the building, but I take his POW 12 first just to try and get some damage.
It does damage, but heals up a little bit, so I think it just did a couple all day.
Yeah, rapid healing just kind of negates everything I do.
Yeah. And then there goes 2, so that healed everything that he did on that roll. So that Chosen's still sitting pretty decent in the zone.
So now Barney's going. So now I can move his Bone Shaker around the building and engage that Chosen. Barney moves up, so he's engaging the 2 Chosen in front of him. And then he's going to start taking attacks. So he is swinging over the wall because he couldn't get past it.
Yeah, the large base, you're always going to end up kind of getting into weird spots with that.
And he misses his bite, misses his axe. He buys an attack. So you're def 14, so I need 6s. Misses.
You'll need to be out here with me from the start instead of over
Yeah,
the side.
Misses.
dice aren't looking super hot. Misses
Misses.
again.
You have to throw a ball.
Finally hits.
Yep.
So basically,
POW 18.
That one
Tough
toughs,
and rapid
though.
heals.
Yep, so we're back up to 2 health.
So I buy an attack, auto hit, auto kill once I roll damage. Buy an attack, miss. Buy an attack, hit. Finally hit.
He toughs and heals as well.
Yep, so I have to buy an attack.
pass it in a straight line from whatever side to the other side. And then the person
So I decided to put up Execration for 2 instead of buying and being left on 1. So now I feat, kill 7 Shamblers because it took 6 Fury and my 2 initials to kill 1 Chosen. Like, this is going really well.
Yeah, that was not the best deal in the world.
Now my dice were not very good this turn. Mat 6 is atrocious, and I hate it. But
Yeah, it's rough.
that's the minion's life. And even, like, I just needed 6s, and that's what makes it even worse. So I used that Fury to buy an attack. I put up Swarm, and then I believe I'm camping 3 behind there.
Yep, which is pretty safe for the most part with all your buffs up.
Yep.
have to either
So you did get a Shambler within range to contest that flag, so that's not, you're not having me score out on you on the flag right away. So that's at least a good thing.
Yeah, I got that going for me at least.
Yep.
Ooh. I got 1 Shambler in range. Pot goes over. He's going to try and Gallows the Ogrun that's up there just to try and kill it. So I don't have many attacks. I know it's not Gallows, but it's basically Gallows. Hits, pulls him. If he would land on the flag, so he just gets pushed back. I boost damage, and I do 1.
Yeah, that Ogrun's still sitting pretty healthy, and it's always nice when you can take these, like, kind of moot attacks that your opponent has. Like, it's not that the spell that the pot was casting was garbage. It was just like, if you get it, it's cool, but you don't really expect it to succeed. So I guess you expected it.
It was dice off 4 boosted.
Yeah.
Like, I expected
it to kill him, but I was able to dodge it just because Ethan's dice did not show up to work this morning.
So now, Posse, I literally need every single attack to hit over here. I can't charge, so they have to walk. And I got 2 Posse doing rerolls again. I hit, I kill the bird way on the end. He's snackings because that
was the
full.
1 box one.
Yep. Miss, reroll, miss. So now the front one, he's biting into a bird, hits, taking his reach attack into a bird, hits. The back one punching the Ogrun, hits. POW 13, dice -5, does no damage. So now I cannot clear off that flag.
Which is really good for me because it means that I'm not denied another like scenario swing.
Yep. So it takes his second swing into the Ogrun, actually hits, and
I think that did 1 damage.
yep. So the Ogrun is still alive. There's still a bird, and I cannot clear off my board.
Yep, you're just running out of things to do over there.
Yep. Swamp Horror goes up, starts punching dudes. Boost damage because I'm only about 12.
Yep, no tough for me.
Buys an attack with the takes his bite.
And that leaves him on a couple.
Takes a tentacle.
That'll
Hits.
tough.
Yep.
Now he's gone though. I think you barely just killed him with the 4. It was just barely there.
No, he did not.
Oh no,
I had to
yeah, that's
buy
right. He had to buy
attack.
another one, so I pulled him back. So the Swamp Horror did what he needed to do, and it took more fury than what I think you were expecting it to.
It took way more fury than I was expecting to, because I thought that the Wrestler would kill 2 Ogrun.
Yeah, and then be able to rage.
Yep.
But it just wasn't going to happen.
And there we see I can actually get a medium proxy base in the zone.
Yeah, this was me just not positioning that Chosen correctly. The goal should have been to get that Chosen to where Ethan could not get into the zone. But my poor planning left me open to where I'm being denied another point.
And there I'm punching that Chosen, and he's just rapid healing it back.
Yep, which is good for me at least that I get to keep this Chosen around because it means that the posse are probably going to be tied up again with just that Chosen.
Yep, without charges and no anti-healing tech, I can't kill Chosen. Like, it's just, I had to run a Swamp Horror into the contested zone, and that's me.
Right, so we're rounding the corner on turn 4, and at this point, I'm still not thinking that unpacking in for an assassination is really something that I want to do. I'm at 3 scenario points to 1 for Ethan, so I feel like I can probably start closing out this scenario pretty easily. I only need to free up the zones and then score my flag, and I'll be okay. So that means there's 1 Boneswarm to deal with in the bottom zone and 1 Gator. That shouldn't be too difficult to deal with. In the top zone, though, it's going to be a little bit more complicated because there's some Gatormen there's 1 Gator that's over the wall that's contesting, and then 1 Gator that's in the zone that's contesting that I think is outside the wall.
There's 3 Gators in the zone. That top Gator is out of the zone.
Gotcha. Okay, so 3 Gators total I need to deal with. I end up getting my tentacles back, and I apparate the Seraph, and not for any particular reason. I thought that he was just going to be spending his time shooting up here, so I just figured I'd apparate him to get him a little deeper in the zone in case it came up. But we end up getting all of my maintenance and control phase stuff out of the way, and I decide to activate my Chosen first to try and kill this Gatorman. The first one misses, and then the second one connects, but only it leaves him on like 4 boxes or something. So the Chosen didn't quite get there, so he repositions out of the way because now I can utilize my Seraph to try and get a charge on the Gator. But I didn't really unlock that idea, not unlock it, but I didn't decide to exercise that idea until I realized that my Hellmouth positioning is not going to allow for them to charge that Gatorman and try and get it out. And it's honestly probably better that way because they're looking for 9s to hit anyhow, and that's just not likely to happen. So we end up unpacking them into the Boneswarm just for some random attacks to see if they connect. And one needs boxcars, the other one needs a 10. Neither of those really hit, so it just they're there. They're in the way for next turns. You know, they're still something that Ethan has to deal with.
They're free contest models I have to kill every turn. And
exactly. And they're
I
not
can't get
easy.
to the Hellmouth, no.
They're not easy to kill. So now I feel like I got to reassess what my turn is looking like here. I don't think the assassination is on point right now.
No, I'm camping 3.
And you've got all your buffs up, so it's hard for me to hit. And I think Abby's got some decent Alpha Hunter targets, but it's going to put her in a dangerous position that I don't want her to be existing in. So now I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going to leave that bottom zone alone and see what I need to do in the upper zone here to try and get things to work. So the Vengeance attack happened with the Ogrun earlier. I think he just put a couple points of damage into a Gatorman Posse. And then he took his actual attack there, took that Gatorman off, and then berserked into another Gator that was by him, and I believe he missed.
Yep.
So it was good that he got that one out of there without needing the charge. Unfortunate that the berserk couldn't do anything, because the more of that I can get going on, the better for me. So instead, we're going to have birds go and try and take out some gators. The issue with the birds is that they can't fight over the wall with only being a half-inch reach. So I only get to unpack one bird, and he unfortunately misses his attack roll. So that doesn't put me in any better position for clearing the top zone. Ends up getting a little bit more difficult, and I got to get a little more creative on how I do that. I go to Abby's turn, and I decide that now I'm going to feat because I'm going to try and use her as more of an attritional piece. And the first thing I'm going to end up doing is just flying her over to the Boneswarm and start taking some attacks there. I had thought about Hex Blasting and just backing away so I could get their Hex Bolting, and backing away so I could get Alpha Hunter and not have to worry about anything. But given that Forest is provided me with a lot of protection, I decide I can take a lot of attacks into the Boneswarm in order to try and get it out with Abby so I can focus my efforts elsewhere. With the feed up, she goes up to POW 14 and a POW 16 damage roll, so things are looking pretty decent for her when it comes to killing the Boneswarm. Ethan was kind enough to let me rewind a little bit and get Slipstream up so that I could get the Carnivean to move up, because that's another important part to this thing. So Abby ends up starting to take punches into the Boneswarm.
Yep. Luckily, he only had one Fury from running, so he only got the Siphon Energy one attack.
Yep, and that let me boost my next initial. And I think within 3 attacks, we end up getting that Boneswarm with just Absylonia herself. I think this is the last initial that does a truckload of damage to him and just gets him out of there. So she's camping on 1 yet, so that's even better for me, just to make sure I've got that extra survivability. So I back up and I decide I think I might use that Fury to Spiny Growth, but I think I might be camping it instead. So yeah, I think we're just camping. Next up, I've got to use my Seraph to get the Gatorman out of this zone. With it having reach for feet turn, that helps me out quite a bit. And looks like he's skirting a little bit on the control, or on my control area, but we measured it out and he's fine. We end up doing a ton of damage on the charge because of poison on the tail.
Yep, Posse Tufts.
Yep, which is no good for me. I think poison, now that I think about it, might be crit poison on the Seraph.
You cheating bastard.
But I don't think the damage really mattered a whole lot, given the numbers I was throwing. So he Tufts again. And then this is my last attack, hits, and then forces Tough, and 3 Tufts in a row from that because of Crawtooth. So when I first was thinking about Crawtooth in the list, I didn't think he was really adding a whole lot, but that right there was enough to really save him from...
I mean, those were the only tough checks I made the whole game.
Exactly, but they were the ones that you needed to make. Well, the ones you needed to make sure you don't lose this turn. So I decide this is where things get a little bit off kilter for me, and I decide to walk my Carnivean over and just spray attack the Gatorman. So I do so. I hit it just fine. You had a free strike from the Swamp Horror, but they didn't do any damage.
You missed, then you used the Puppet Master objective, and then you still missed.
Yep, because I did make the Carnivean Puppet Mastery this turn. And then I just move up my Forsaken to pull some Fury off so I don't have so many management issues later. I know that some people might be saying, Brian, you didn't use your Forsaken ever, but right now is where I really needed it, so I was just banking him until it became really important to me.
Yeah, basically he was just a flag holder.
Exactly. Which I am lacking a lot of in this list.
Yep.
So next up, Golab unpacks into the Gatorman, because over the wall with Alpha Hunter up and the feet, I should not have many issues trying to get these guys out of here, and they don't get the opportunity to tough like that other guy did at the bottom. So Golab starts munching through these posse, and he ends up clearing that zone and using Lightning Strike to get out of here to kind of get back into a good spot. I don't want to give up Golab if I don't need to, and that Wrastler is still dangerous. So I put him behind some Hellmouth tentacles and then use them to jam out the Wrastler a little bit, so that Golab's pretty safe. And I end my turn and go to 5.
Yep.
So just before Ethan gets into his turn, I screwed up royally, and since I had tilted so hard from that Gatorman toughing, I completely forgot I could have won this turn by just putting the Carnivean into the objective.
Yeah, like if he had just literally charged forward, he could have auto-killed the objective basically with his initials and bot attacks, then you win.
Yep.
But now I'm down 5-1. I have, I believe, less than 5 minutes.
Yep. Your Swamp Horror passed his Frenzy check, so there's that.
Well, I know, that was really nice. I have no more Swarm, and I believe I have 0 chance of clearing my flag, 0 chance of clearing the zones, so, like, I'm just making attacks. I think at this point I had accepted I could not win.
Yep. And you're just trying to do what you can to make it harder for me to win.
Like, maybe there could have been a play with, actually, I think I see a play. The Swamp Horror got Pathfinder. He could have walked up, boosted the Tentacle in the...
And then pull her so that Barney could get into it.
Yeah, so maybe actually I did have a line to you. I was just so tilted that, like, yeah, that was actually a credible assassination run. I can't believe I missed that just watching it. All I've just boost a tentacle into you, and then I'm at 6. I'm gonna say I'd probably miss.
We'll see. I mean, I guess we won't see, but it could have happened.
Yeah.
At any rate, the Swamp Horror is just trying to clear out some stuff in the Hellmouth tentacles. And he does so just fine. I think you end up clearing every tentacle that was left in there. And then Barnabas is going to try and get into the Carnivean. And I think this is where I don't use Spiny Growth a whole lot. So, like, I tried to fight damage back at you, or throw damage back at you, but I wasn't allowed to.
Yeah, because I'm a warrior model.
Yep.
So I'm at 8, and I needed 3s to hit. I hit, and I am rolling abysmal on damage at dice -2.
Yeah, because I'm sitting at arm 22 between Bracer and Spiny Growth.
I have 3 corpses and a Dark Shroud bot, so I'm POW 20 effectively, but at dice -2, I'm rolling, like, 5s and 6s. There's a 4. Like, I just wanted Barney to eat a Carnivean.
Yep. And it's just, it's not coming up roses for Barnabas over here.
I roll a couple 9s for damage.
Yeah, and that's good. It does quite a bit of damage to the Carnivean in general, but like Bracer plus Spiny Growth is just tough.
Yeah, it's real good.
I think on the last attack you end up getting him out of there. You might be camping a couple or something.
I think I'm like basically on 0, but I just run up to contest the zones.
And you've got that Shambler that's contesting my flag, and we move on to the next one. There's been a trend lately of the last transition I upload just getting corrupted on the way over, so this is the transition for the final turn. So this turn is easy peasy for me. There's only one Shambler that's contesting the flag, and Ethan wasn't able to score anything on his turn, so all I really need to do is get that Shambler out of there, and then I'll just score the flag and close out the game on scenario. Abby goes up with her full stack and boosts an attack into it and takes it off, and then repos to the flag, and then that'll end it with me on scenario.
Yeah, like, looking at it, I was way too, like, I wasn't tilted, but, like, I had checked out. I think once you have 5-1... I should have respected the Swamp Horror assassination threat. Like, in my mind, when I began that turn, I assumed he was going to fail his frenzy check.
Yeah.
So, like, I wrote him off completely for that turn.
Yeah.
I didn't check out of the game. I checked out of his activation.
activation.
I was like, okay, it's wasted. But, yeah, I probably could have pulled Abby in, and then Barney could have maybe put her in the ground. I don't have feet. I'm at age. She's that 14, 15?
I think 14, but she was only camping 1 and didn't have... Like, if I had Bracer on her, then it changes, but she's pretty squishy in general.
And that all hinges on the Swamp Horror hitting, which
Yep.
my beasts were not hitting worth a crap at all the whole game.
It was interesting because we both kind of got emotionally controlled by what was going on the table, right? Because you checked out of the Swamp Horror's activation because of the Fury on him, and I had checked out of the Carnivean's true job, which was go get the 1 point that's guaranteed by killing the objective instead of trying to kill a Gatorman Posse with 1 shot that you could probably just tough, even though it would be unlikely that you'd do that. So I think that it was an interesting way for the game to play out at the end, that we both kind of missed something that was important. Because then the Barnabas assassination isn't on the table if I end up squaring up and just remembering that the Carnivean has a job to go get the objective.
Yeah, because you just win.
Yeah, because then it's just over. But in general, this was a really interesting exercise for us. For me, for sure, because I play Absylonia 2 in a very specific way, which is really loading up her battle group with things, I kind of have like a kit that I always bring with her, where it's like I always have to have a Scythian, a Seraph, and Proteus. Like that's my go-to. And since Golab's available in 2 different themes, I feel like Golab's made it into the required position. And then from there, it's like the Carnivean's got to be there too because of spiny growth and a really credible threat under feet. But I haven't really explored using her with the Primal Terror stuff. I know it's a concept that exists, but never really experienced it. The list played really well. I think that I wouldn't be able to say if it necessarily played better or worse than the version that I usually carry around with me. One thing that I did realize that I missed a lot was not having extra spell martyrs to be able to threaten the hex bolts in more spots, because I just kind of had the one that sat around and did nothing just because of where I had placed him. Overall, I don't think there's really many changes that I would make to this list. I wouldn't mind trying to fit more spell martyrs in, but it's really hard to because the points are real tight. I would really love to have Proteus in here, but again, I think it's difficult to mess with the battle group when you're bringing the Ogrun along with you, just because they're so they're really good at the points that they're good at, or at max units, I guess is what I should be saying, and I really wouldn't want to mess with that so much.
No, they're very self-sufficient packages that Abby doesn't need to invest anything into.
Yep, she's like a set it and forget it.
Yep, basically. The Barney list, whenever I used to build Barney lists, I always defaulted to will work for food. I'd always seen Blindwater lists floating around, and it's like, they're not bad. It's not bad either way. It's just, when you get these split scenarios like this, it's hard to protect all the posse with Execration, and trying to leverage his Dark Shroud bots when you got a bunch of units in the way gets kind of hard.
Also, you've got a problem with the Gatorman Posse only get up so high when I'm Mat 7 rolling extra dice, or Mat 9 in some cases. So that's probably another way that this kind of tilts a little bit.
Yeah, Barney doesn't really do anything for the posse. Like, it's more of what they can escort him up the board in some cases if he just hides behind them and like slowly trundles up. But with your threat ranges so far, I knew I couldn't layer the posse, and with the wide scenarios in this latest packet, it's hard to brick up with medium-based units and just move them up the board to escort your caster.
Yeah, Recon, you really can't afford to do that because there's no... You kind of have to pick a side and then just give the other one up.
Mm-hmm. The only really change I would make to the list is the Swamp Horror. I would really like to swap him out and maybe a couple other things around to get Wrong Eye and Snapjaw.
Yeah, when you're layering all those defense debuffs and then getting Star-Crossed on top of it, it makes him almost indestructible.
Yeah, like, he's not indestructible, because I've seen people kill him through it. People get too greedy, but...
Yeah, if you, like, slam something into him,
he's
sure.
steady.
Oh, well, that takes
he's
care of that.
literally immune to... Stationary is his biggest weakness, and then high mat. But, like, there were a few turns there where I'm like, if I have Wrong Eye butt-to-butt with him, I wouldn't have been afraid of actually putting him up the board.
Yeah.
Because Def 17 with Star-Crossed makes it so Abby's assassination threat isn't as viable if I'm camping a couple.
Even under Alpha Hunter, yeah.
Yep. Because her battle group now needs 9s.
Yep.
Boosted 9s with signs...
With Star-Crossed.
With Star-Crossed. And Abby herself, the biggest threat of the Abby assassination in my mind is always her. Because if she gets to you with Siphon Energy and you're camping, it's literally like, thank you for the free boosts.
Exactly, yep.
And at least then she needs 10s. And then I can afford to maybe camp a few more because she's maybe going to miss. And it's more questionable for her to even try the assassination run. Because if you know I'm Def 17 with Star-Crossed, you might not even try it. Just
yeah, I'm not very well incentivized to do so.
But otherwise, like, I like the rest of the list. I like the Boneswarms. I like the double pot. Because, like, you need double pot if you're going to run double Boneswarms and Barney. Just because, like, there are games where I roll a 1 every turn for those stupid pots. And it's like, well, I just spent 3 turns loading up my War Beasts. Whereas here, I rolled them up turn 1. And they're all loaded up ready to go. Now I can give them to Barney.
Yeah, even against a list that doesn't have the most corpses to give, you were still sitting pretty well on them. But overall, I think we both enjoyed this experience of trying lists that aren't our own, and definitely variations on ones that we would play normally. So this was cool. I hope you enjoyed the battle report. It was definitely fun to make this one, and we look forward to making the next one.
Mm-hmm. And then I think we made a couple comparisons while we were playing, because, like, I think everyone's comparison these days from Barney 2 is Gaspy 4. Because they both bring 3 little grunts. They have Dark Shroud, but you can tell it's not that Barney is aged so much. It's just you can tell he was pre-Sid.
Yeah,
Because
because
you
if
see things like Gatsby now where like he has to spend a corpse to bring back a dude. He's command 10, but like he can't really leverage his guys, whereas like Gatsby has flying grunts and he brings back one every turn.
yep,
So like
it's a little easier for him to get his stuff where he wants to. They're I wouldn't say they're completely comparable, but they're really close to one another. And I think that Barnabas too could use a little bit of a tweak, but I just don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. It doesn't make him a bad warlock
not
by
bad
any
at
means.
all.
It's just that there's something that has some of the things that he really wishes he had.
Yeah.
Like even just Pathfinder on the Bone Shakers.
yeah, Gatsby 4's package is basically what Barney wants to do, just for not your Warcaster
Yeah.
and with almost equal stats.
Yeah, I would say it's probably
Gatsby's
not
14,
that far
17, and Barney is 13, 18.
Yep, that's pretty close.
But no, Barney 2 is still good. I still enjoy him. It's just you got to play to his strengths, and then you got to try like and leverage that death skew and hope your opponent doesn't have the high enough mat to break through Star-Crossed.
And not with 5 attacks with a Wrastler.
Wrestlers are dead to me.